You can be eating a healthy diet and still be undernourished. In fact, it's something I see surprisingly often in people living with chronic and serious illness. In this episode, we're talking about one of the most overlooked forms of undernourishment, not getting enough protein. Welcome back to Renegade Remission, where I share stories and strategies that help you heal faster and live longer and better, regardless of your prognosis. Many people assume that they would know if they were not eating enough protein, but during illness, the signs are often more subtle. You may notice that your muscles feel weaker, recovery takes longer, your energy feels less reliable, you feel shaky or depleted between meals, and tasks that once felt easy now leave you exhausted. When this happens, most people start looking for answers. But sometimes one of the most important questions is also one of the simplest. Are you giving your body enough of the raw materials it needs to repair itself? So, how much protein does a healing body actually need, and what happens when it doesn't get enough? Let's start with one of the most important things to help us understand why protein matters so much during illness. When you eat protein, your body breaks it down into amino acids. These amino acids are then used to build and repair tissues, make enzymes, produce neurotransmitters, maintain muscle, and carry out thousands of biochemical processes. The immune system also depends heavily on protein. Antibodies, immune cells, inflammatory mediators, and repair proteins all require adequate amino acid availability. During illness, the body's need for these building blocks can increase. Inflammation, infection, treatment, surgery, detoxification of medications, wounds, and tissue repair all require amino acids. This means that protein is part of the structural and functional foundation of recovery. When protein intake is too low, the body still has to find amino acids somewhere. One of the places it pulls it from is muscle. The body may be breaking down lean tissue to meet internal demands. This is especially common when appetite is poor, digestion is limited. It can also happen when someone shifts into a healing diet that emphasizes plants, cleansing, detoxification, or restriction, but does not include enough complete protein to meet the body's increased needs. The problem is that a healing body has different demands than a healthy body. Someone may be eating beautifully and still not giving the body enough of the raw material it needs to maintain muscle, immunity, and repair. The standard recommended dietary allowance for protein, which I would argue is too low, is often listed as 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. That number is meant to prevent deficiency in generally healthy adults, but it is not enough for people who are older, chronically ill, inflamed, recovering from surgery, dealing with cancer, or trying to preserve lean mass. Several clinical nutrition guidelines and expert groups recommend higher protein intakes in certain illnesses or aging contexts. In cancer nutrition, for example, expert guidelines often suggest more than 1 gram per kilogram per day, and up to 1.5 grams per kilogram per day when possible. And it means if someone is eating very lightly, skipping meals, relying mostly on liquids, or following a very restrictive diet, they may be significantly under their actual needs for protein without realizing it. The next thing we have to understand is that muscle is not just for movement and strength. This piece changes how most people think about muscle. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It stores amino acids, helps regulate blood sugar, supports insulin sensitivity, contributes to immune resilience, and acts as a reserve during periods of stress. During serious illness, preserving muscle becomes extremely important. Muscle loss is associated with worse function, greater fatigue, reduced mobility, higher risk of falls, lower treatment tolerance, and more difficulty recovering from setbacks. Losing muscle can make it even harder to maintain independence and capacity. Muscle is reserve, protection, and part of the body's emergency savings account, and protein is one of the deposits that helps preserve that reserve. But protein affects much more than tissue repair. It influences how stable you feel throughout the day, and that's the next thing we need to understand, which is that protein supports blood sugar stability. When meals are high in carbohydrates, especially without adequate protein, fat, or fiber, blood sugar rises and falls much more quickly. This contributes to shakiness, fatigue, irritability, cravings, anxiety, and the feeling of crashing between meals. During illness, when the nervous system is already more reactive and energy production is already strained, those swings can feel even more destabilizing. Adding protein to meals slows digestion, supports steadier glucose absorption, and gives the body a more stable energy curve. The next thing we need to understand is that not all protein sources are identical. Proteins differ in amino acid profile, digestibility, and how easily the body can use them. And protein quality and its ability to be utilized by the body is very important. Animal proteins, such as eggs, fish, poultry, meat, and dairy, tend to provide all the essential amino acids in highly bioavailable forms. Plant proteins can absolutely be part of a healing diet, but they often require more planning, variety, and usually larger portions to provide the same amount of essential amino acids, especially leucine, which is important for stimulating muscle protein synthesis. So if you are following a plant-based diet during illness, you need to be especially attentive to protein adequacy. Beans, lentils, edamame, nuts, seeds, quinoa, and protein powders can all help, but portions matter. A salad with a few chickpeas sprinkled on top may look healthy, but it is not enough protein to support a body under stress. And digestibility also matters. If digestibility is weak, someone may not tolerate large amounts of meat or legumes. In that case, softer options may work better. Things like fish, eggs, slow-cooked meats, soups with added protein, Greek yogurt, unsweetened, or kefir if tolerated, and collagen added to meals or high-quality powder. The goal is not to force yourself to consume more protein. It's simply to find what your body can digest, absorb, and use. Now, here's something many people have never been told. Protein distribution matters just as much as intake. Many people eat very little protein at breakfast and lunch, and then most of their protein at dinner. That pattern may technically add up to a decent daily amount, but it's not ideal for preserving muscle and functionality. Muscle protein synthesis is stimulated by protein intake, especially when a meal contains enough essential amino acids. For many adults, this means it's necessary to include meaningful protein at multiple meals rather than saving it all for the end of the day, because the body needs repeated opportunities to access amino acids. This also connects to what we discussed in our previous episode on capacity and recovery. If the body is operating with limited reserves, a shortage of raw materials makes it even harder to rebuild. This is especially true if your appetite is low, your meals are very light, you are avoiding many foods, you are losing weight unintentionally, your muscles feel weaker, or you are eating mostly fruits, vegetables, soups, crackers, juices, smoothies, or salads without much protein added. You do not need to overhaul your diet overnight, but protein is one of the simplest places to support the body more effectively. So how do you put this into practice? The first step is to estimate where you are. You do not need to track everything forever, but it can be very eye-opening to write down what you ate yesterday and today and estimate roughly how much protein you've actually consumed. Many people are surprised to discover they are getting far less protein than they thought, especially when appetite is low or meals have become smaller or sparser over time. A simple framework is to aim for a meaningful protein source at each meal. If a full meal feels difficult, you can think smaller. A smoothie with protein powder, bone broth with added collagen, hummus with vegetables, a hard-boiled egg, tuna, sardines, or even a small bowl of soup with shredded chicken or beans. The second step is to stop eating protein-free breakfasts. For many people, the single change creates the biggest improvement in energy and stability. Many people begin their day with toast, oatmeal, fruit, coffee, or a pastry, and then wonder why they feel shaky or hungry later. The first step is to add protein to those foods if you're not willing to walk away from them just yet. So oatmeal can be paired with protein powder, Greek yogurt, hemp seeds, or eggs on the side. Fruit can be paired with yogurt, cottage cheese, nuts, or a smoothie with protein. Toast can be paired with eggs, smoked salmon, or nut butter. Eventually, it's good to move away from foods that fill you up without adding nutrition, but you can start with these pairings. The goal is stabilizing your blood sugar and providing your body with the building blocks it needs. The third step is to choose protein sources that match your digestive capacity. If your digestion is strong, you can tolerate a wide variety of whole food proteins. But if your digestion is compromised, you might need softer, simpler, or more broken down forms. This means slow-cooked meats, soups, stews, fish, eggs, yogurt, and smoothies, which are all easier than denser dry foods. And some people do better with smaller servings spread across the day rather than large portions at one meal. The fourth step is to pair protein with colorful vegetables. A plate with protein plus colorful vegetables, herbs, spices, healthy fats, and fiber gives the body both repair materials and regulatory support. This is why I do not like framing it as protein versus plants. A healing body often needs both amino acids to rebuild and plant compounds to regulate inflammation, support the microbiome, and protect cells. The fifth step is to consider protein, especially around energy expenditure. Think of it as giving your body materials before and after it has to spend resources. If you have a physical therapy session, a walk, exercise, a long appointment, a treatment day, or any activity that tends to drain you, think about protein before and after. This does not have to be complicated. It might be a small protein-rich snack before you leave the house or a simple meal as soon as you return. The point is to stop asking your body to spend energy without giving it materials to recover. And the sixth step is to watch for signs that your protein strategy is helping. You may notice steadier blood sugar, fewer cravings, better satiety, improved strength, improved recovery after activity, or less shakiness between meals. These changes may be very subtle, but it's important to track them because they matter. They're signs that your body is receiving more consistent support. And finally, if eating enough protein feels impossible because of nausea, appetite loss, swallowing difficulty, digestive pain, major weight loss, or treatment or medication side effects, that is not something to simply push through. Ask for help. A dietitian, nutritionist, or oncology nutrition specialist or integrative practitioner may all be able to help you find forms of protein you can tolerate and build a plan that fits your current capacity. If today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to join my email community at therenegadenutritionist.com. That's where I share additional resources, research, healing stories, and insights that don't always make it into the podcast. It's also the best way to stay connected as we continue exploring the many factors that influence healing, recovery, and remission. Most importantly, it's a place to be reminded that you're not navigating this journey alone. You can join for free at therenegadenutritionist.com. Thank you for listening today, and as always, go be renegades.